Hare Krishna. Got it? Nice. Prabhu, tell him to connect to the projector. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava. Don't pay away, please. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You go there. You go there. You go there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Bharinishwarada Bharinishwarade Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Vrindavanadam Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshanam Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Nitai Gaura Haribol, Haribol, Nitai Gaura Haribol, Nitai Gaura Haribol. Jaya Narasimhadev, Jaya Narasimhadev, Narasimhadeva, Jaya Narasimhadev, Jaya. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Om Shri Vishnu Pada Paramhamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Shtotra Hadasa Srimad His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Shri Vishnu Pada Paramhamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Shtotra Hadasa Srimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Maharaj ki jai. Jai Nityalila Pravishnu Vishnu Pada Paramhamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Shtotra Hadasa Srimad His Divine Grace S.A. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Namacharya Hridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन जी की मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय। गंगा माई यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की जय। समेत भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। तैगोर सीतनाथ प्रेमानंदी। All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev, Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 4, text number 19. Is there in the projector? Na vedavadam anuvartate mati swayeva loke ramato mahamunehe yatha gatir deva manushyayoho prutak swayeva dharmena param shipet stitah. Vedavadan anuvartate madi swayeva loke ramato mahamuni yatha gatir deva manushyayo prutak swayeva dharmena param shipet stitah. Na vedavadan anuvartate madi swayeva loke ramato mahamuni yatha gati deva manushyayo prutak swayeva dharmena param shipet stitah. Matajis. Na vedavadan anuvartate madi swayeva loke ramato mahamuni yatha gatir deva manushyayo prutak swayeva dharmena param shipet stitah. Word to word translation. Na, not, Vedavadhan, rules and regulation of the Vedas. Anuvartate, follow. Mati, the mind. Sway, in his own. Eva, certainly. Loke, in the self. Ramataha, enjoying. Mahamuni, of elevated transcendentalist. Yatha, as, Kati, the way, Deva Manushyoha, of the men and the demigods. Pratak, separately, Sway, in your own. Eva, alone. Dharme, occupational duty. Na, not. Param, another. Shipet, should criticize. Stitaha, being situated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. It is better to execute one's own occupational duty than to criticize others. Elevated transcendentalist may sometimes forego the rules and regulations of the Vedas, since they do not need to follow them. Just as the demigods travel in space, whereas ordinary men travel on the surface of the earth. Purport. The behavior of the most elevated transcendentalist and that of the most fallen conditioned soul appears to be the same. The elevated transcendentalist can surpass all the regulations of the Vedas, just as the demigods traveling in space surpass all the jungles and rocks on the surface of the globe, although a common man who has no such ability to travel in space has to face all these impediments. Although the most dear Lord Shiva appears not to observe all the rules and regulations of the Vedas, he is not affected by such disobedience. But a common man who wants to imitate Lord Shiva is mistaken. A common man must observe all the rules and regulations of the Vedas, which a person who is the transcendental position does not need to observe. Daksha found fault with Lord Shiva for not observing all the strict rules and regulations of the Vedas, but Sati asserted that he had no need to observe such rules. It is said that for one who is powerful like the sun or the fire, there is no consideration of purity or impurity. The sunshine can sterilize an impure place, whereas if someone else were to pass such a place, he would be affected. One should not try to imitate Lord Shiva, rather one should strictly follow one's prescribed occupational duties. One should never vilify a great personality like Lord Shiva. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Sakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagahana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namavam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. First I would like to offer my obeisances to all the devotees of here assembled here for this wonderful Bhagavatam class. You can hear from Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the devotees who have given me this opportunity. I take it as for my purification. So the translation is, it is better to execute one's own occupational duty than to criticize others. Elevated transcendentalists may sometimes forego the rules and regulations of the Vedas, since they do not need to follow them, just as the demigods travel in space, whereas ordinary men travel on the surface of the earth. So we just read the purport. So we are just continuing this conversation. This subject matter is going on. That Daksha, he offended Lord Shiva, and then Sati Devi, then she went to the place where the sacrifices is about to happen. She was not invited, so but then Lord Shiva told Sati that better you don't go there because you will not be respected, you will not be given due respect. But then Sati, because of her strong connection, familial connection with her mother and sister, she wanted to see them, relatives. So she went there, and then nobody welcomed her there. So that's the scene. So then what happens here, that's what further we are seeing here. So when Sati understood nobody is welcoming her, especially Daksha, was not even giving any attention to her, she became very furious. And therefore now here we are seeing that her in the translation. So we will try to cover these important points in today's class. First, we should not do not misjudge a Mahabhagavata by his appearance or activities. And then we will understand Lord Shiva's transcendental positions and real opulence of a devotee. You will see exemplary behavior of Sati Devi, and you will see the conclusion, summary, and also today's Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur's appearance day. So we will discuss the glories of our Acharya. So these are the topics we will be covering, try to cover. So we are also covering from 19 to 22 verses today. So here it is said that the behavior of the most elevated transcendentalist and that of the Prabhupada mentioned the purport, the behavior of the most elevated transcendentalist and that of the most fallen conditioned souls appears to be the same. So what can we understand from the above statement? It is said that Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vignena Bujaya. So what does it mean? Even the most intelligent men cannot understand what a Vaishnava like Lord Shiva is doing and how he is acting. So in the material world we are conditioned. So in that conditioned tendency is to evaluate everything based on our sense perception. Right? Whatever we see, whatever we hear, based on our sense perception, we try to come to some, and we get some understanding and come to some conclusion. But when we enter into the spiritual subject matter or transcendental subject matter, we are in the presence of Sri Krishna or his devotees. This is a very dangerous proposal, right? To understand everything based on our sense perception. Therefore, we must be very, very careful, and we have to see everything through the eyes of the Shastra, Sadhu, Shastra and Guru, right? So therefore, Rupa Goswami, he gives an example in the Nectar of Instruction. The Ganges sometimes, it seems to have contaminated. You will see sometimes dead bodies are there, so many contaminated things are there floating. But he says that there are foaming bubbles are there. But then the Ganges is supposed to be, it is pure. We cannot say that it is impure, right? So if somebody thinks this Ganges is impure, then that's a very offense. So therefore, we have to see from everything from the point of Sadhu, Shastra and Guru, right? So in the purport, we see that what does it actually means? That it means that externally the activities of a pure devotee and a conditioned soul may sometimes look like, but the difference is in the consciousness, in the motivation and the purpose, which are completely different. So that is we need to understand. So now we have few examples, right? Commonly we see that in our common activities of a devotees, like our eating, sleeping and family life, it looks like everything ordinary, right? From comparing to the materialistic activities. The devotees, they also cook and eat. The non-devotees, they also cook and eat. But is there any difference? It is offered. It is spiritualized food. It is prashadam, right? So therefore there is a gulf of difference between these two. Although the activities are same, but there's a gulf of difference is there, right? Same way the devotees, they go to work. The non-devotees also go to work. They have their family. So everything's same. They are also earning money. They are also doing everything. But there is a huge difference is there. So the difference is that the devotee are simply interested to everything they utilize in the service of Krishna. It's coming there? No? It's not there? Oh, okay. Now, just see now? Okay. So, yeah. So, marriage or family life, a materialist enters marriage life for his own enjoyment, but a devotee also marries. But the difference is that he is leading a very regulated life, and to support his devotional service, and he brings up his children in a very spiritual atmosphere or Krishna conscious way. So, outwardly they look same, but the consciousness is completely different, right? Same way, renunciation or wandering. A beggar may renounce possessions due to poverty or frustration, but a sannyasi may also renounce everything, but out of spiritual realization and dedication to Krishna, right? So, a beggar also, he does not have anything in his possession. A sannyasi also doesn't carry. He is not supposed to earn money or carry money. So, but then there is a lot of differences there. Both are appear to be renounced, but one is helpless, but the other is transcendental. Okay. So, like dancing and singing, materialists like to dance, they go to all kind of cinema, nightclubs, everything. But the devotees, they dance in kirtan, an ecstatic love for Krishna. So, externally, both looks like same, but one degrades the soul, but the other activity completely liberates, right? Gulf of difference. So this is what Prabhupada's statement, the same action can be binding for one and liberating for another, depending on the consciousness, right? So now Srila Prabhupada's point is that we cannot judge a spiritual advancement merely by external behavior, right? So therefore, a pure devotee, even though engaged in ordinary seeming activities, is completely transcendental and untouched by material contamination. Therefore, we see in the Bhagavad Gita, as a sloka is the 4.18, Karmani akarma ye pasyet, akarmani cha karmaya, sa buddhiman manushesu, sa yukta Krishna karmakrit. Means one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities, right? So a devotee is engaged in all sorts of activities just like an ordinary man, but he is actually action in inaction. He does all the activity, but since all the activities are transcendental, there is no karmic reaction for that one. So therefore, the lesson for is what? Do not judge a devotee or anyone merely by external activities, right? So the real measure of advancement is the intention and devotion to Krishna behind one's action. So here we see that Srila Prabhupada purport, the elevated transcendentalist can surpass all the regulations of the Vedas, just as the demigods traveling in space surpass all the jungles and rocks of the surface on the globe, although a common man who has no such ability to travel in space has to face all those impediments, right? So you cannot expect that demigods while traveling, they will have traffic jam. Just when you are going, we are having traffic jam, but demigod need not have to undergo all these things. They can just fly, right? So that's very important. And although the most dear Lord Shiva appears not to observe all the regulations of the Vedas, he is not affected by such disobedience, but a common man who wants to imitate Lord Shiva is mistaken. So because the Lord Shiva is always in meditation, thinking of Krishna, so therefore he is never contaminated by any material activities. So Lord Shiva's activities is bewildering for ordinary common person, because what he does, he smears his body with what? Not sandalwood pulp, ashes from the crematorium. But then he also drinks what? Not milk. He takes hala hala poison, right? Can we drink that one? It's impossible, right? So his behavior does not follow typical Vedic standards of cleanliness or etiquette, right? But is Lord Shiva is affected? No, right? Therefore he is completely transcendental. So on the other hand, what happens if someone tries to imitate his activity, right? Finished. One drop of poison, class, finished. So therefore, we have to understand that it is not that conditioned souls should never imitate the great personalities. Srila Prabhupada always says that there is a two Sanskrit word. One is called Anusharana. Anusharana means follow the instructions, follow in the footsteps of great devotees. Then Anukarana means artificial imitation. So we should do what? Anusharana or Anukarana? Anusharan, right? So that is very important. Another common word is Mahajana Yena Gata Sapantaha, means we have to follow the path traversed by the Mahajanas, and Lord Shiva is one of the Mahajana, right? So you should follow his instructions, not his activities. So another example is that Hanuman, what he did, he jumped to cross over the ocean to Lanka, right? If ordinary monkey jumps, what will happen? He will drown in the ocean. So, Anusharana. So, Prabhupada says that great exalted personalities may sometimes act in ways that seem unconventional, but they are not to be imitated, but only respected. Srila Prabhupada himself did many unconventional things, right? Let's have a quick brainstorm. What all you did? Unconventional things. Sorry? Yeah, leaving India. A sannyasi is not supposed to cross the ocean, right? Traditionally speaking, nobody will cross the ocean. But Prabhupada crossed the ocean, and he went to America. He circled all over the world, more than 7 times, right? Circle. Yeah, what else he did? Yes, for just 40 rupees, unimaginable thing he did. Even from materialistic point of view, even a businessman cannot do such kind of activities. But he did wonders. He at the time, he established the ISKCON institution. By the time he left 1977, that was more than $40 billion of worth of property, right? ISKCON had. Yeah, what else he did? Yeah, at the age of 70, who will go? Everyone will want to retire and see nice, relax. But Prabhupada, he took all the risk. We all know his history. Yeah, what else he did? Sorry? Yeah, he went all alone. Correct? Yeah. Then? He converted the hippies into happies. Right? Amazing. Nobody could imagine. Yeah. Books. Nobody could imagine such an old age he could write so many books. Right? Prabhupada did that one. Everything unconventional. But because he was a Mahabhagavata, right? He's not an ordinary personality. If somebody said, I will also be Prabhupada, I will also try to do that one. It's not possible, right? Because he was an empowered Acharya, Saktivesh avatar, right? Therefore he could do that one. So Prabhupada used modern technology. He said, why the karmis are using dictaphone? I will also use it for Krishna, right? And then he organized women in preaching, unheard. Women, today ISKCON devotees, everyone, irrespective of their gender, they are giving class, they are doing all services. The materialistic, they want equal rights to women. But here Prabhupada did it spiritually. He made. So this is very unconventional. Establishing temples worldwide. Yeah. So all these things are all amazing. And he collected money. A sannyasi is not supposed to collect money, but he collected money. But he utilized for Krishna's service. So everything Prabhupada did was unconventional, but we need to understand that Prabhupada's position is completely beyond our understanding. He is completely transcendental. Now, Daksha found fault with Lord Shiva for not observing all the strict rules and regulation of the Vedas, but Sati, she is saying that she asserted that he had no need to observe such rules, because the analogy given here is that it is said that for one who is powerful like the sun or the fire, there is no consideration of purity or impurity, because the sunshine can sterilize an impure place, whereas if someone else were to pass through such a place, he would be affected, right? The sunshine, nothing can contaminate the sunshine, but the sunshine can purify even the most contaminated place. Therefore, the point is that one should never imitate Lord Shiva, who is not an ordinary soul. So for us, the safest thing is we have to follow the regulations of the Shastra under the guidance of the spiritual master. Therefore, Rupa Goswami has given very nicely in the Nectar of Instruction. The verse number 4 is what? Sangatyaga chatovrite sado bhaktir prasidyati. Nischaga nischaya dairya tat karma pravartanat. Tat karma pravartanat means follow the rules and regulations according to the scriptures. So that is why we have to, that's what the devotees we need to do. So therefore Prabhupada says that we should also always follow the rules and regulation, and if you do that, success is sure. Prabhupada says 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, right? That is a fact. Similarly, if you follow the principle as laid down in the Shastras, then our success is sure. But if you don't follow, then what happens? Yes Shastra vidim ustrijya vartate kamakarata na sat sthitim avapnoti na siddhim avapnoti. You will never attain perfection if you take casually and not follow the stipulation. Devotees should follow the rules and regulations. Therefore, in our Krishna conscious movement, there are things which we are supposed to do and things we should avoid doing that. That we must carefully follow that one. So Lord Shiva is a very, very transcendental person. This time we went to Vrindavan Parikrama. We had the opportunity to visit take darshan of Lord Shiva in many places. And in Vrindavan particularly, there are 5 places where Lord Shiva is very famous, and he has got different names according to that place. So one is that there are 5 temples Lord Shiva, and all these temples were established by Lord Krishna's grandson. Who is that? Rajanaba in Braj. So the first one here you see is Gopeshwar Mahadev. He is dressed like a gopi. Why you know that? Because he wanted to take part in the Ras Leela, but he was not allowed. So then he was told by Vrindadevi that you take bath in Manasarovar, and then they dressed him like a gopi, and then they allowed him to take part in the Ras Leela. But then what happened? Yogamaya, when Krishna, he was dancing with all the gopis, that day he was not feeling as much transcendental pleasure. Then he wanted to know the reason. He said that somebody else is there in this group other than the normal gopis. Then they said, no, nobody is there. But then there is one gopi who is having 3 eyes. So who is that? That's Lord Shiva. So then they brought him to Lord Krishna, and then Lord Krishna was very happy to see Gopeshwara. He said that I am very pleased to see you in this form of a gopi, but you know that this Ras Leela is not for Grihastha householders, right? So therefore what you have to do, but then you are already there in participated. So what I will do, I will give you the post of Rasa Dwarapala, gatekeeper of Ras Leela, where the place is. So and I also give you the blessing that henceforth all the gopis will offer you respect and take your blessings and get the gopi bhav. So this is described in Garga Samhita. And then the second place is Kameshwar Mahadev. It's in Kamyavan, where anyone who goes and worship Lord Shiva, their wishes gets fulfilled. And then there is a third, Bhuteshwar Mahadev. He is in Mathura. right? Mathura is protected by the western side by Bhuteshwar Mahadev. So before going to do the Vrajadham Parikrama, normally devotees, they go and take blessings from Lord Shiva. And there is a place called in Govardhan, Chakleshwar Mahadev, a set of 5 lingas are there. It's in the Manasi Ganga's northern bank. So they represent actually the 5 faces of Lord Shiva, and they guard the Govardhan region. And the 5th place is Nandeshwar Mahadev in Nandagaon. So it is in the top of that Nandeshwara hill in Nandagaon, where Lord Shiva, he begged Narayana for blessing and so that he may see Lord Krishna's pastimes. So Lord Krishna, he bestowed him in the shape of Nandagaon. So in the guise of Nandadeshwara Mahadev, Lord Shiva has resided in Nandagaon, where actually in that place the first Charanamrit and the Mahaprasad of Krishna is served to Nandeshwara Mahadev. So these are some of the glories of from Vrajadham. So wherever you see that Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna are closely connected, and they are actually, Lord Shiva is very happy to serve Lord Krishna. So we'll see in the next verse number 20, the translation says, in the Vedas there are directions for 2 kinds of activities, for those who are attached to material enjoyment and activities for those who are materially detached. In consideration of these 2 kinds of activities, there are 2 kinds of people who have different symptoms. If one wants to see 2 kinds of activities in one person, that is contradictory. Both kinds of activity may be neglected by a person who is transcendentally situated. So what does it mean? What can we understand? So there are 2 social orders, Grihasthas and Sannyasis, right? So the Grihasthas, they live with the families, and the renunciant Sannyasis have renounced family, and they don't renounce the family, they don't have wealth, they don't have possession, but they are dedicated fully for preaching and spiritual realization, right? Right. So each order has got its own rules and regulations. So we cannot mix them, right? Mixing them will lead to hypocrisy. So like sannyasi, he cannot secretly live like a grihastha, and a grihastha cannot pretend to be a renunciate without responsibility. So both will not match, right? So therefore, as a conditioned soul, we must follow our assigned order, household. Whatever ashrama we have accepted, we have to follow that rules. But the 3rd class here is a fully realized soul is beyond both designation, because his consciousness is fixed on Krishna. Like we have example, like Bhaktivedanta Thakur and Srila Prabhupada. Both are, right? Bhaktivedanta Thakur is a Grihastha, Prabhupada was a Grihastha, later he became sannyasi. But both are actually, they are not determined by their external ashrama, because their life is completely dedicated for Krishna, right? Therefore they are transcendental. Now further examples we can understand that Arjuna also, he fought in the battlefield, but because he did it for Krishna, it's transcendental. But on the other hand, Sukadeva Goswami, he was going here and there in a naked situation, but it was completely spiritual. Both are completely different, because their activities are purely for Krishna. And in verse 21, the translation, Sati says, "My dear father, the opulence we possess is impossible for either you or your flatterers to imagine. For persons who engage in fruitive activities by performing great sacrifices or concerned with satisfying their bodily necessities by eating foodstuff offered as a sacrifice, we can exhibit our opulences simply by desiring to do so. This can be achieved only by great personalities who are renounced, self-realized souls." So now we see 2 things. Transcendental was material opulence, right? Here we see Daksha and his followers, they were engaged in material opulence, like yajna, sacrifices to gain wealth, fame, children or heaven. But Sati, she explains that our true opulence is spiritual and unlimited, and it is not dependent on material action or sense gratification. So we need to understand what is spiritual opulence and material opulence. The spiritual opulence includes power of creation, manifestation and renunciation, things ordinary people cannot even imagine. Now Sati's father Daksha, he may be under the impression that he was exalted in both prestige and opulence, then that has been greater than Lord Shiva, right? So her father might have been thinking that although she was a chaste woman, greatly adherent to her husband was in a deplorable condition. This is what Daksha must be thinking. To counteract such that, now Sati is saying that the opulence possessed by her husband could not be understood by materialistic persons like Daksha and his followers, because they are actually flatterers and their aim is to engage in fruity activity. And Lord Shiva's position is completely different, because he actually possessed all the opulences, but he did not like to exhibit. What happened when Daksha, he blasphemed? Did Lord Shiva reacted to that? He completely remained silent. He could have shown his anger or opulence in that situation, but then he did not respond. So that is, renunciation is also one of the opulence, right? We see 6 opulence of Krishna. Renunciation is, Vairagya is also one of the opulence. So Lord Shiva can show his wonderful opulence, but it will be shown in the, as we are going in this chapter, we will see Lord Shiva's opulence later, right? So material sacrifices serve only the body. The difference is, but there are, but it is also conditional and temporary, all material situations, right? So it is condemned. The word used is dhuma vartmabihi. Those who maintain themselves on the remnants of sacrificial footstep are considered as dhuma vartmabihi, because they are condemned. Because there is one kind of food offered in the fruity ritualistic sacrifice, and the other best food is food offered to Vishnu, right? So in any case, all the sacrifices is meant for pleasing Krishna. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the purport mentioned that ritualistic performers are compared to be like crows, because the crows delight in eating what? Nice prasad? No. Eating remnants of food which has been thrown into dustbin, right? But then it's very strong statement. All the brahmanas who are present for the sacrifice were also condemned by Sati, but because it's all done for selfish purpose. Right. So, whereas the spiritual opulence is effortless for the realized souls. Now Sati wants to point out that she and Lord Shiva, are exalted personalities, can display transcendental opulence at will without performing laborious sacrifices. For Lord Shiva, there is no need to perform all these sacrifices. It is just that because these demigods are all doing, it just came as a formality to attend that function. Otherwise, for Lord Shiva, he is Atmarama, he is self-realized soul. He does not require all these things to do. He is completely transcendental. But because as a formality he came. But then Daksha did not understand his position. So all this is possible for only renounced and self-realized souls who does not have any material desire. So what is the key here? The key here is renunciation, right? So true greatness is not in external wealth, power or rituals, but in freedom from wealth, attachment and self-realization. So even Daksha, he has got immense material power, therefore he could not understand the difference between material opulence and spiritual opulence of a pure devotee. So Srila Prabhupada, actually from a materialistic point of view, he just was a sannyasi. One time when he was in Vrindavan, right, one devotee brought something, a very nice preparation, rasagulla or something, which was prepared in England, and then it was brought to Prabhupada and said, not even a king will get such a thing which is prepared in thousands of miles away, and then it was brought to Srila Prabhupada. And one devotee remarked that, Prabhupada, you look like a king. Prabhupada said, I am more than a king. Right? So, so like that. So we see like we have example of Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. They were multi-billionaires. They had such a wealth. But then they renounced completely to completely engage in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is a real opulence of a devotee. So what is the lessons for devotees here? Don't confuse material power with true greatness. True opulence is spiritual, not material. One can have everything materially and still be spiritually poor. So renunciation is not poverty. Real renunciation, like Lord Shiva or pure devotees practice, is the source of unlimited spiritual power. So giving up attachment does not mean losing opulence, it means assessing higher transcendental opulence. So spiritual power is effortless for devotees, right? While the materialistic, they have to work hard for their to forget material gains, but devotees can manifest transcendental power simply by desire, because they are aligned with divine consciousness, right? The very interesting story, Srila Prabhupada, when he went to America, there was a place called in Texas, Dallas. There's a big mansion was there. What's that mansion? I forgot the name. That mansion, that was on a sale. So Prabhupada went there to, devotee said, we want to have a center here, can we go and see? So when Prabhupada went there, it looks very opulent. Everything was very opulent there. So then devotees were saying it's very it's Maya, but then Prabhupada looked at it a different way. He said it is all for Krishna, you can use it everything for Krishna service. So then he asked, how much is this cost? So that owner, there was one broker was there, he said some billions of dollars or something like that. What Prabhupada said, you know, we are all beggars, we don't have anything, you should give it as free of cost. Right? So that broker got a shock. Nobody had negotiated such a deal with them, with him. It's the first time somebody is asking free of cost. So eventually Ambarish Prabhu, he gave some money and then he got that mansion. And then after 2 days he left that place and then he said, see, I came here, I didn't have anything, but now I got this mansion. I am a sannyasi, I am still not taking anything from me. So this is Prabhupada's opulence. At the same time, he is completely renounced. If he wanted, he could have stayed there, very opulent place, but he did not stay there. He has got his duty, right? So therefore, we have to understand that we have to honor the great personalities not by seeing their physical appearance. We have to see their spiritual power, right? So what we can see is that offending a Vaishnava is worst, right? So therefore, what is the real opulence of a devotee? The true opulence of a devotee is, Krishna's devotee is faith in Krishna, Shraddha, right? And chanting of the holy name. Number 3, purity of the character, purity of character. And then service to Guru and Vaishnavas. And then compassion and preaching spirit. And then renunciation, vairagya. These are the real opulence of a devotee, and ultimately love for Radha Krishna, prema pumarto mahan. So therefore, these are the real opulence of a devotee, not that our material opulence. Of course, those things may be helpful for us, but in our progress in Krishna consciousness, but we have to understand that real opulence of a devotee from Krishna's point of view, these are the real opulence of a devotee. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, this verse is very, very wonderful. In these 4 lines, he has captured the whole essence of our Krishna, what is important for us as a devotee. He said, Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesa Tanayas Tadham Vrindavanam Ramya Kaschid Upasana Vrajavadu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumarto Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matam Idam Tatradharanaha. So he says, Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesa Tanayas Tadham Vrindavanam. Worshipping Lord Krishna along all with his paraphernalias in Vrajdam is the highest worship, right? And then Ramya Kasid Upasana, there is no other worship better than the gopis who have given their whole life, for Krishna's service. Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no Purana equal to Srimad Bhagavata Puranam. And what is the ultimate goal of life? Prema Pumarto Mahan. This is the ultimate goal. This is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's final verdict. And this is the goal of all the devotees. These things are to be treasure, real treasure for a devotee, right? Therefore we must read every day Srimad Bhagavatam, worship the Lord, and all this important faith in chanting the holy name. We have to maintain a high purity, because purity is the force. Without purity, our preaching will not be effective. So these are the things, and of course in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and many other places we see a lot of transcendental qualities of a devotee, and these things we need to imbibe. And lastly we see in the verse 22, Sati is saying, you are an offender at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, and unfortunately I have a body produced from yours, and I am very much ashamed of your bodily relationship, and I condemn myself because my body is contaminated by a relationship with a person who is an offender at the lotus feet of the greatest personality, right? So Sati's behavior is very, very exemplary here, because no one should tolerate blasphemy against the Lord Vishnu or his devotee. So she feels herself to be condemned. So what lesson we can learn from Sati's action mentioned above? So here we see a devotee, he never tolerates the blasphemy of the Lord or his devotees. Sati could not tolerate her father's harsh words against her husband, and Lord Shiva was the greatest of all the Vaishnava. Similarly, a Krishna conscious devotee, we should never tolerate blasphemy against Krishna or his devotees or Guru. Srila Prabhupada, he taught us, if we hear blasphemy, what we should do? We should defeat by arguments, or we should close our ears, or we should never remain silent in approval of the offense. So the lesson is, we must cultivate zero tolerance, right, toward offense against the Lord and his devotees, while maintaining humility in other matters. And one should feel ashamed of material connection if that opposes our devotion. This is another lesson. Sati lamented, I received body from my father, but now the body is condemned because connected with an offender of Lord Shiva, right? She saw her maternal relations as insignificant compared to her spiritual duty. So for devotees, real identity is as Krishna's servant, not the temporary family body. So the theme here is, we have to choose devotion over material bonds, correct? So many times what happens, we are being tussled, we have been caught in between. What our relatives will say, what our family people will say if I follow these principles. Many times we feel the pressure, right? So what we should give priority? We should be firm in our conviction why we are following these principles, why it's important, right? So that is what she is showing her by example. Although she is generally a girl, would we have more attachment for the father, but since her father is a great offender of Lord Shiva, therefore she is ready to completely forego that relationship. That is Sati's greatness. Right? So we should not blindly support material relatives if they oppose devotional service. Spiritual truth is higher than bodily ties. Okay. Exemplary devotion means readiness to sacrifice for principles. So that's what Sati did here. So in our lives, while we do not imitate her extreme action, we learn that our first loyalty is to Krishna above all else. Right? Of course, we cannot imitate Sati. Okay, my father and mother is not supportive, I will go and commit suicide. That will be an absurd. So that's not expected from a devotee. We have to be loyal to Krishna. So we have to be aware of bad association, because Daksha, for the bad association she had Sati, this is a warning for all of us. So Prabhupada warned us, bad association even with relatives can destroy our spiritual life. So therefore we must choose our association based on devotion, not because of family connection. We can respect our family ties, but we should never allow anyone envy of devotees to weaken our faith. Okay. Shati's action warns against imitation. Yeah, we discussed this point. So in summary, from Sati's behavior we learn, do not tolerate blasphemy. Spiritual identity is higher than material family ties. Devotion to the Lord is worth than the life itself. We should avoid bad association and don't imitate extreme actions. Okay. So overall lessons what we discussed today is that true opulence. What is true opulence? We should not don't judge externally. We should not judge a book by its external cover, and loyalty to Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada himself reflected this. He defended the dignity of the bhaktas. He challenged the materialism. He left everything for his Guru's mission. His family themselves were not very supportive, but then he left. And he taught Vaishnava integrity, that is uncompromising devotion with humility. So I'll just quickly go through today's also the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Now the great acharyas in our disciplic succession, the spiritual master of his youngest Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, and his life is very exemplary and teachings are very inspiring for all of us. So his period was between 1838 to 1914. He's great acharya in our Vaishnava. He's also termed as, normally we say 6th Goswami, but he's called as 7th Goswami. So his life, he had his education in Bengal, and his name was that time was Kedarnath Datta, and he is very expert in Sanskrit and English. And in those times, British government, he was very much respected, and he had the position of a district magistrate, and all his verdicts were never ever turned. All the verdicts were upheld. And his life, if you see, is a family as a Grihastha. He was a very devoted husband, and he had 10 children at that time. And one of this is Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Thakur, ray of Vishnu, very powerful acharya, as spiritual master of our founder acharya, is joining us Srila Prabhupada. So great preacher. And he had done a lot of spiritual contribution, and he rediscovered the place of Mayapur. Today what we have Mayapur is because of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, and he presented Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, which even the great common people can easily understand. And his teachings is pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti. Pure loving service to Krishna is the topmost ultimate goal. And he taught about the holy name. Chanting the holy name is the most powerful, and he has written a lot of books. One of the famous books is Sharanagati. It's filled with deep realization about chanting. And also he is very balanced in his life. As a Grihastha, he could able to do so much things. At the same time, he could had a big family of 10 children, maintaining them. And he adopted the principle of Yukta Vairagya. And those times when Bhaktivedanta Thakur was there, there were a lot of Apasampradayas were there. So he did great preaching to wipe out all these Apasampradayas. He preached very strongly against them. And he's had a very universal vision. He presented the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya in English for the first time, sharing that Lord Chaitanya's mission is not only for India, but for the whole world. So this was the mood of Bhaktivedanta Thakur. He was the first one who wrote Mahaprabhu's teachings, and then he translated in English and he sent it to the foreign countries. And later Prabhupada also followed in his footsteps. And one of the very important contribution is written a book called Shri Godruma Kalpatavi, right? In this work, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he presents a metaphorical marketplace where the holy name is Krishna is the primary commodity, and then he has lot of distributors. It's a very nice book. Every devotee should read that one. Very inspiring to, especially the leaders, preachers should read that one. So it is actually a collection of newsletters originally written, and then it was published in Godhra Kalpatavi. And why is it relevant? Because His Holiness Jayaprakash Maharaj has actually translated this book in English language for us to understand, and it is very, very relevant for us in this modern age for all of us. and it is the basis of these Namahata programs. West Bengal, it's very famous, is Namahata. So all this got inspiration from this book written by Bhaktivedanta Thakur. So example from his life, his daily sadhana is very austere. He gets up very early at 1 a.m., right? And then he writes books and do all this sadhana. And he had a very high preaching spirit and personal integrity as a government officer. He had such a very integrity. He's honest in fairness and dealing with all the people. So his life is totally an inspiration for all our devotees, because he had a balance in duty and devotion, commitment to sadhana, chanting the holy name, and vision of global preaching, right? Okay, so to conclude, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur was not only a brilliant teacher and prolific writer, but also a living example of devotion in action. He's shown that one can live in this world with responsibilities and yet be fully surrendered to Krishna. His life and teachings paved the way of the global Hare Krishna movement, and is fully dedicated to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Grandaraj ki jai. We also have Bhadra Purnima, which is coming on 7th of this month. You know, Bhadra Purnima is the day where devotees can, sponsor, distribute Bhagavatam book. It is said in the scriptures that one would distribute Srimad Bhagavatam, donate Srimad Bhagavatam on this auspicious day. So he will directly go to the Goloka Vrindavan. Such a great opportunity. So even if you don't have Srimad Bhagavatam, please, you should have a set of Bhagavatam, and it is now in a very special rate is there to get this Bhagavatam, and it will be delivered in India wherever you want. So you can gift it to your relatives. It's a wonderful opportunity. We all like to give some gift to our relatives sometime, but there is no gift better than giving Srimad Bhagavatam. So take this opportunity, and it is available in all the languages, Indian languages. So take this opportunity and give a set of Bhagavatam donation to your near, dear and ones. So that will be of great seva. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.